The little girl tightened her grip around her father's hand. "Dad, are we late?" Ethan Carter smiled. Not even close. He glanced down at 8-year-old Lily. She wore a pale blue dress that she'd insisted on ironing herself. One sleeve still had a wrinkle. He didn't fix it. It reminded him that children didn't need perfection. They only needed someone who stayed. The Saturday morning sun poured across downtown Boston. Families filled the sidewalks. Street musicians played cheerful tunes. Food trucks served coffee and fresh pastries. Everything felt alive. Everything except the small part inside Ethan that still missed his wife every single day. 3 years earlier, Emily Carter had passed away after a sudden illness. She had fought bravely. She had smiled until the very end. Her last request wasn't about herself. It was about Lily. "Promise me she'll always know what happiness looks like." Ethan had kept that promise. Every single day. Life hadn't become easier. It had simply become familiar. School lunches, laundry, soccer practice, homework, weekend pancakes, birthday parties. The endless cycle of ordinary moments. Those ordinary moments became priceless after losing someone extraordinary. Ethan wasn't wealthy. He owned a neighborhood furniture restoration workshop, old dining tables, vintage cabinets, family heirlooms. People trusted him because he never rushed craftsmanship. He believed every piece deserved another chance. Just like people, his customers often joked, "You should charge twice as much." He laughed. If everyone could afford perfect furniture, nobody would appreciate repaired furniture. Lily tugged his sleeve. "Dad. You promised ice cream after the science fair." "I absolutely did." "You pinky promised." "I know." She held up her tiny finger. He linked his with hers. No lawyer in America can break a pinky promise. She giggled. That laugh, it sounded exactly like Emily's. Every time Ethan heard it, his heart healed a little and broke a little at exactly the same time. The school gym buzzed with excitement. Children proudly stood beside homemade volcanoes, solar systems, robots, mini windmills. Parents wandered between displays, taking photographs, clapping, encouraging. Lily had built a water filtration model. Not perfect, not fancy, but entirely her own work. When the judges arrived, she explained every detail confidently. Ethan watched from several feet away. He refused to interrupt. She deserved this moment. Second place. She jumped with excitement anyway. "We did it." "No," Ethan laughed. "You did. We did." She hugged him tightly. After the ceremony, they walked toward their favorite ice cream shop. The weather remained bright. Children rode bicycles through the nearby park. Office workers enjoyed lunch outside. Tourists stopped to photograph old brick buildings. The city felt warm, comfortable, human. Halfway there, a woman stumbled onto the sidewalk. She wore an expensive cream business suit, designer heels, luxury handbag. Everything about her suggested success, except her expression. She looked exhausted, disoriented, barely able to keep her balance. People noticed, then looked away. Nobody wanted involvement. One couple whispered, "Probably drunk." Another man shrugged, "Not my problem." The woman leaned against a stone planter. She closed her eyes. Her breathing became uneven. Lily frowned. "Dad." "I know. Is she okay?" "I don't think so." Ethan approached carefully. "Excuse me." The woman slowly opened her eyes. They were striking green, but unfocused. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." I said. She paused. "I'm fine." She attempted another step. Her heel caught uneven pavement. She nearly fell. Ethan reached forward just in time, steadying her without pulling. "I'm not trying to embarrass you." She blinked. "I don't." Another pause. "Remember where my driver is." Her words slurred slightly, not dramatically, just enough. Enough to tell Ethan she'd had far too much to drink earlier. Enough to tell him she shouldn't be walking alone. "I'm Ethan." She stared blankly, then answered quietly. "Claire." Lily waved politely. "I'm Lily." Claire managed the smallest smile. Hi. Ethan noticed something else. She wasn't acting reckless. She looked emotionally drained, as though she'd spent hours carrying something invisible, then tried to bury it beneath expensive champagne. A nearby cafe employee stepped outside. You know her? No. Good luck. The employee disappeared inside. Ethan looked back toward Claire. Do you have your phone? She searched her handbag. Nothing. Then another pocket. Nothing. Finally, oh! She found it. Battery dead. Can you remember your address? Claire closed her eyes. Concentrating, she whispered an address. One of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Boston. Ethan nodded. I'll call you a taxi. She shook her head immediately. No. Why? Another pause. I don't want strangers. She looked embarrassed, not entitled, not demanding, simply vulnerable. Lily quietly pulled Ethan's sleeve. Dad. Yes. Mom would have helped. The words landed softly, but powerfully. Emily had always stopped, always listened, always helped people, even complete strangers. Ethan looked toward Claire again, then back at Lily. You've got your answer. He opened a rideshare app. The nearest driver canceled. The second canceled too. A local marathon had closed several roads. Demand was unusually high. Claire sat carefully on a nearby bench. She rubbed her temples. I just need... She stopped speaking. Ethan crouched beside her. Claire? No answer. Not unconscious. Just overwhelmed. Lily offered her unopened bottle of water. Claire accepted gratefully. Thank you. 10 minutes passed. No available rides. Ethan sighed. My truck's parked nearby. Claire immediately shook her head. I couldn't. You can. I don't even know you. You don't. Exactly. He smiled gently. So here's everything you should know. My daughter is standing right there. I'm taking you directly home. You can share your location with anyone once your phone charges. And if you decide halfway there that you don't trust me, I'll stop anywhere you choose. Claire studied him carefully. Something about his calm voice made panic disappear. For the first time all day, she felt safe. She nodded once. Okay. The truck wasn't impressive. 10 years old. Small scratches. Clean interior. Child booster seat in the back. Tiny stuffed giraffe sitting beside it. Claire smiled faintly. You have a giraffe. Lily says every truck needs one. It absolutely does, Lily agreed. Claire laughed. A real laugh. Brief. Unexpected. As Ethan drove, no one spoke for several minutes. Soft music played quietly. Traffic moved steadily beneath the bright afternoon sun. Eventually, Claire whispered, I hate business lunches. Ethan smiled. Bad food, worse conversations. You drank because of work? She looked outside. Because of family. He didn't ask another question. Sometimes silence showed more respect than curiosity. Claire noticed. Most people chase gossip. He didn't. He simply drove. Steadily. Patiently. After another few minutes, she spoke again. My mother keeps introducing me to men. Lily giggled. My teacher does that with reading partners. Claire smiled. I wish that were all she did. My mother believes every problem can be solved with marriage. Ethan chuckled softly. Parents have unusual talents. Claire turned toward him. What about Lily's mom? The truck became quiet. Lily answered before Ethan could. My mommy lives in heaven. Claire's expression immediately changed. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Lily said. Dad says love doesn't disappear. It just changes addresses. Claire looked toward Ethan. You told her that? He nodded. It seemed true. Claire looked out the window again. Try not to cry. Nearly 40 minutes later, they entered an elegant neighborhood lined with historic mansions. Tall trees shaded wide streets. Gardens bloomed in every direction. Everything looked perfectly maintained. Claire pointed ahead. That one. A magnificent white estate overlooked the avenue. Iron gates stood open. Several luxury vehicles waited outside. Staff members hurried across the front garden. The moment Ethan parked, the front door opened. An elegant silver-haired woman rushed outside. She looked frightened, relieved, angry, all at once. Claire slowly stepped from the truck. "I'm okay." The older woman hugged her tightly. "You disappeared." "I know. My phone died." She finally noticed Ethan, then Lily. For a brief second, her expression softened. "You brought her home?" "Yes." "Thank you." Claire spoke quietly. "He didn't ask for anything. He just helped." The older woman looked directly into Ethan's eyes. Something changed. Not recognition. Not yet. Just curiosity. As though his face reminded her of another lifetime. "My name is Margaret." She extended her hand. Ethan shook it politely. "Ethan Carter." The name hit her like a whisper from decades ago. Carter. Her smile froze for the smallest moment, then returned. Perhaps coincidence. Nothing more. Surely. Claire reached into her handbag. "I should pay you." Ethan stepped back. "No. You drove all this way. I helped someone get home. That's not a business transaction." Margaret watched carefully. Very few people refuse money at this address. Very few. Lily smiled brightly. "We're actually going for ice cream." Claire blinked. "I delayed your afternoon." "You improved it," Ethan replied. "My daughter just learned helping people matters more than schedules." Margaret looked at Lily. Then Ethan. Something inside her stirred. A memory she couldn't quite reach. "Please," Margaret said gently. "At least allow us to thank you properly another day." Ethan smiled. No thanks needed. As he started the truck, neither he nor Lily noticed Margaret still standing at the entrance, watching them disappear. Unable to explain why Ethan Carter's name refused to leave her mind, inside the mansion, Claire removed her shoes. Her headache had begun fading. Margaret quietly asked, "Where did you meet him?" "Downtown. I'd been drinking. I almost fell. He helped." Margaret remained silent. "What?" Claire asked. Margaret slowly walked toward an old family bookshelf, opened a wooden photo album, stared at a faded photograph taken almost 15 years earlier. A smiling young woman stood between two people. One of them looked remarkably like the little girl she'd just met. Margaret whispered to herself, "It can't be." Margaret remained frozen in front of the old photograph. Her fingers trembled. She gently traced the smiling face of her daughter, Emily, the daughter she hadn't seen in almost 11 years, the daughter she had lost forever. Claire walked into the room. "What are you looking at?" Margaret quietly closed the album. "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. Not anymore. She couldn't stop thinking about Ethan Carter, his kindness, his daughter, his last name, and Lily's smile. It reminded her of someone she once held in her arms. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lily finally reached their favorite ice cream shop. The owner smiled the moment they walked inside. "Second place deserves double scoops." Lily laughed. "I knew you'd say that." They sat beside the large front window. The afternoon sun filled the cafe. Families walked by. Children chased pigeons across the square. Everything felt peaceful. Lily suddenly looked at her father. "Dad." "Yes." "Do you think the lady will be okay?" "I think she will." She looked lonely. Ethan nodded. Sometimes successful people are lonely too. Lily stirred her vanilla ice cream. "I wish nobody had to feel lonely." Ethan smiled. "So do I." Across town, Claire had changed into comfortable clothes. She carried a mug of tea into her mother's study. "You've been quiet." Margaret looked up. "Claire, can you tell me everything about the man who brought you home?" Claire frowned. "Why?" "I just want to know." Claire shrugged. He was polite. He never asked who I was. He never asked about money. He just wanted to make sure I got home safely. Margaret listened carefully. "And the little girl?" "Lily. The sweetest child I've met in years." Claire smiled. She reminded me what childhood should look like. Margaret's heart ached. Emily used to smile exactly like that. Later that afternoon, Margaret made a phone call. Not to an investigator, not to a lawyer, but to an old family friend. "Richard, I need you to help me find someone. Richard Harper had been the Carter family's attorney for decades. If anyone knew where Ethan Carter lived, he would. The next morning, Ethan opened his workshop. The smell of polished oak filled the air. Rows of antique furniture lined the walls, each piece waiting for another chance. His assistant Ben arrived carrying coffee. Busy week. Ethan smiled. When isn't it? Ben pointed toward the newest delivery. A mansion sent that. Ethan looked over. An antique wooden writing desk. Beautiful craftsmanship. Almost 200 years old. Attached to it was a handwritten note. Please restore this desk exactly as it was. There was no signature. Only initials. And W. Ethan admired the workmanship. They don't build furniture like this anymore. As he carefully examined the desk, he noticed a tiny carving underneath. 3 letters. YMW. He assumed they were the original owner's initials. Nothing more. At that exact moment, Claire was sitting in the boardroom of Carter and Winslow Holdings, one of Boston's fastest-growing investment companies. Executives filled the room. Charts covered the screens. Profits, acquisitions, expansion plans. Normally, Claire dominated meetings. Today, she couldn't concentrate. One executive asked, "Should we approve the merger?" Claire blinked. "I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?" Everyone exchanged surprised glances. Their CEO never lost focus. Never. After the meeting, her assistant approached. "You seem distracted." Claire smiled faintly. "I met someone yesterday." "Oh, a father and his daughter. They reminded me of something I thought I'd forgotten." The assistant smiled. "What?" "That kindness still exists." Back at the workshop, Lily arrived after school. She loved helping her father dust finished furniture. She walked around the antique desk. "It's pretty." It belonged to somebody who loved it. Ethan nodded. "You can always tell." "How?" "People leave little pieces of themselves behind." Lily carefully opened one drawer. It was empty, except for a tiny folded piece of paper trapped beneath the wooden lining. "Dad, I found something." Ethan gently removed the paper. It had yellowed with age, almost forgotten. Inside, a child's handwriting. "If you're reading this, I hope someone still loves this desk. Love, Emily." Ethan's entire body froze. Emily. His Emily. He read it again. And again, the handwriting. The little heart she'd always draw beside her name. There was no mistake. His voice became almost a whisper. "This can't be." Lily looked confused. "Dad." Ethan quickly wiped away a tear. "This was Mommy's." Lily's eyes grew wide. "Really?" He nodded slowly. "I'd recognize her handwriting anywhere." Neither of them understood how Emily's childhood desk had somehow appeared in their workshop. Miles away, Margaret received another phone call. Richard spoke quietly. "I found Ethan Carter." Margaret closed her eyes. "So it really is him." "Yes. He owns a restoration workshop, and he's raising Emily's daughter." Margaret's breathing stopped for a moment. "My granddaughter." "Yes." Tears rolled silently down her face. She had spent years believing she'd never even know if Emily had children. Now she knew Lily existed, and yesterday she had spoken to her, without realizing it. Claire entered the room just as Margaret lowered the phone. "Mom." Margaret looked at her daughter. "We need to talk." "What happened?" Margaret opened the old photo album. She pointed toward a smiling young woman. "This was your sister." Claire stared at the photograph. "What?" "I never had a sister." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "You did." "Her name was Emily." Claire could barely breathe. "You told me I was an only child." "I lied." The room fell silent. "For 11 years." Margaret whispered. "I carried that shame alone." Claire slowly sat down. "Tell me everything." Margaret looked toward the window. The bright afternoon sunlight flooded the room. "Emily fell in love with a kind young carpenter. I wanted her to marry into wealth. I believed money could protect her. I gave her an impossible choice. Her family or the man she loved." Claire's eyes widened. "And she chose him." Margaret nodded. "I was proud. I was stubborn. I convinced myself she'd eventually come home. But instead, I received a letter saying she had passed away. Claire covered her mouth. You never told me. I couldn't. I was ashamed. I lost one daughter because of my pride. I couldn't bear losing another. Claire stood and walked toward the photograph. Emily smiled so naturally, so warmly. She looked nothing like the cold family stories Claire had imagined. Instead, she looked exactly like Lily. Claire whispered, "Yesterday, I met my niece." Margaret nodded through tears. "And Ethan, the man who helped you, is Emily's husband." Claire slowly sank back into her chair. Everything suddenly made sense. Why Ethan had looked so familiar. Why Lily's smile felt strangely comforting. Why helping him somehow felt important. Across the city, Ethan carefully placed Emily's handwritten note into a protective envelope. He looked toward the antique desk again. This didn't arrive here by accident. Someone, somehow, had brought a forgotten piece of Emily back into his life. He just didn't know that the woman responsible was already planning to see him again. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the workshop windows. Dust floated gently through the warm air. Ethan stood quietly beside Emily's childhood desk. He carefully unfolded the handwritten note once more. "If you're reading this, I hope someone still loves this desk." He smiled through tears. "I still do, Emily." Lily wrapped her arms around him. "Mommy would be happy. I think she would." Outside, a black luxury sedan slowly pulled into the parking lot. Ethan looked through the front window. 2 women stepped out, Claire and Margaret. Neither woman spoke immediately. Margaret looked around the workshop. Every piece of furniture had been restored instead of replaced. Nothing expensive, nothing flashy, only honest work. "This is exactly how Emily described his dream," she whispered. Claire heard her. "You've been here before?" Margaret nodded. "Once. Long ago." Ethan opened the workshop door. "Good morning." Claire smiled nervously. "Hello." Margaret couldn't speak. Her eyes were fixed on Lily. The little girl looked up. "Dad?" "That's the lady from the big house." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. The child had Emily's smile, Emily's laugh, even the same curious eyes. Ethan invited them inside. "Please." For a few moments, no one knew where to begin. Claire noticed the antique desk. "You already started restoring it." Ethan nodded. "It belongs to someone named Emily." Margaret slowly closed her eyes. "It belonged to my daughter." Silence. Complete silence. Ethan looked at her. "What did you say?" Margaret took one slow breath. "My name is Margaret Winslow. I am—" She struggled to continue. "Emily's mother." The workshop became completely still. Even Ben quietly stepped into the back room, giving them privacy. Ethan stared at Margaret. He had imagined this meeting 100 different ways over the years. None of them looked like this. "You knew Emily?" Margaret nodded. "I raised her. You never came." "I know. You never answered our wedding invitation." "I know. You never called when Lily was born." Margaret lowered her head. "I know." Each sentence carried years of pain, years of unanswered questions. Lily quietly held her father's hand. She had never seen him like this. Margaret looked at Ethan. "I don't deserve forgiveness. I only came because life gave me one final chance to tell the truth." She slowly sat down. "My husband built this desk for Emily when she was 8. She wrote stories on it. She dreamed on it. When she left home, I couldn't bear to look at it." Claire looked shocked. "You kept it all these years?" Margaret nodded. "Every birthday. I dusted it. Every Christmas. I placed flowers beside it. I couldn't let it go." Ethan quietly asked, "Then why did you let Emily go?" Margaret didn't defend herself. She didn't make excuses. "I was proud. I believed money guaranteed happiness. I believed love was not enough." She looked directly at Ethan. "I was wrong. I lost my daughter. I lost 11 years. I lost the chance to hold my granddaughter." Lily slowly stepped closer. She looked at Margaret with innocent curiosity. "Were you Mommy's mommy?" Margaret could barely answer. Yes. Lily smiled gently. Then, you're my grandma? Margaret broke down. Years of regret poured out in silent tears. I don't know if I've earned that. Lily thought for a moment, then walked over. She hugged Margaret. I think Mommy would want me to. Margaret held Lily carefully, as though she were holding time itself. Claire quietly wiped away tears. She had built billion-dollar companies, negotiated impossible deals. None of them prepared her for this moment. Later, the four of them sat together outside the workshop. The afternoon sun warmed the old wooden picnic table. Margaret removed a small envelope from her handbag. This belongs to you. Ethan opened it. Inside was a letter. Emily's handwriting. My mother gave this to me on the day I left home, Margaret explained. I was too stubborn to mail it. Ethan unfolded it. Emily had written, Mom, if you're reading this someday, I hope you've forgiven yourself. I'm not leaving because I love you less. I'm leaving because I love Ethan. Please don't make him carry the blame. He's the kindest man I've ever known. If we ever have children, tell them their grandmother loved them, even before she met them. Love, always, Emily. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say. Several weeks passed. Margaret visited often, never to interfere, only to know Lily. Sometimes they baked cookies. Sometimes they planted flowers. Sometimes they simply sat together reading books. Claire also became part of their lives, not because of business, because of family. One Saturday afternoon, Claire visited Ethan's workshop. She watched him repairing an old rocking chair. I've been thinking. Ethan smiled. That sounds dangerous. She laughed. The board wants us to relocate our headquarters. And I said no. Why? Because we're opening something else instead. What? A vocational training center for young single parents. Ethan looked surprised. Claire continued. They deserve careers. They deserve second chances. And she smiled. I know someone who could teach woodworking. Ethan laughed. I've never taught before. Lily says you're a great teacher. Lily immediately agreed. He teaches me everything. Months later, the training center officially opened. Young mothers, young fathers, veterans, former foster children. Everyone learned together. The first plaque inside the entrance read, dedicated to Emily Carter, who believed every broken thing deserves another chance. Ethan smiled when he read it. He knew Emily would have loved it. That afternoon, families gathered outside for the opening celebration. Children played games across the green lawn. Music filled the air. Food trucks served lunch. Everything happened beneath clear blue skies. Margaret quietly stood beside Ethan. Thank you. For what? For letting an old woman become a grandmother. Ethan looked toward Lily. She was laughing with Claire, running through the grass, completely happy. I didn't do that. Emily did. Margaret smiled. She chose well. At sunset's golden glow, while it was still bright daylight, Lily ran toward them holding something behind her back. I made everybody presents. She handed Margaret a small wooden heart. She handed Claire a tiny carved bird. Finally, she handed Ethan a simple picture frame. Inside was a new family photograph. Ethan, Lily, Claire, Margaret, standing together outside the workshop. Across the top, Lily had written in colorful letters, families don't always start together, but love helps them find each other. Ethan looked toward the sky, not with sadness, but with gratitude. He whispered softly, we kept our promise, Emily. She knows what happiness looks like. The camera slowly pulled away. The workshop stood proudly in the afternoon sunshine. Children laughed. Families smiled. The restored antique desk sat inside the front window. No longer forgotten. No longer alone. Just like the family it had quietly brought back together.